An empty billionaire date transformed when a little girl unexpectedly revealed, "Mommy's sorry." Jake Reynolds adjusted his tie, the fabric feeling constricting against his throat as he sat at the corner table of the upscale restaurant. A potential partner was late, and his gaze drifted around the room, skimming over the elegantly adorned tables, the muted conversations, and the clinking of glasses that felt too far removed from his reality. He clenched his jaw, the weight of impending disappointment pressing down on him as he questioned his priorities. Success in business had become a gilded cage, wrapping around him tighter with each passing day. He was a billionaire, yes, but he was also a man haunted by his choices that led to a painful divorce and left his daughter Emma in a cramped home next to the train tracks in New Jersey. Just then, an unexpected flurry of movement caught his attention. Tiny feet in colorful sneakers stepped cautiously into the chic establishment, followed by the familiar face of his 5-year-old daughter. Disbelief swept through him as his heart raced, memories flooding his mind the night he lost it all, hearing her cries as he walked away from their home, the sound echoing in the hollow of his chest. "Mommy's sorry," Emma announced, her innocent eyes gleaming with mischief, cutting through the pretentious atmosphere like a knife. As the gasps from nearby diners filled the brief silence, Jake's heart dropped. Panic twisted in his gut as he realized the significance of her words. Here he was, trying to impress with fine dining and financial transactions while she was reminding him of the love he'd let slip away. He had built empires and conquered market heights, but none of that mattered as he stared into her shimmering gaze. A sorrowful realization settled in: he had sacrificed their family on the altar of ambition. Between mouthfuls of caviar and sips of expensive wine, he watched as Emma chatted with the waitstaff, her joyous laughter echoing off the walls. The stark contrast of their two lives twisted his stomach. The emptiness of his luxurious surroundings, each piece a constant reminder of what he'd forfeited, gnawed at him. He forced a smile, pretending to engage in the professional conversation with his absent guest. But all the while, the anguish built within him, growing more labored and suffocating. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. He glanced at his phone again, the impossible deal loomed over him, threatening to unravel in front of his eyes. The weight of the impending failure pressed down like an anchor, deepening the already cavernous rift within him. He knew that chasing wealth could lead to a future that looked impressive on paper, yet it could also erase the warmth of his daughter's laughter, the simple joy of shared moments. As he met Emma's curious gaze, clarity broke through the chaos. The conversation, the empire, the fleeting success, it all felt insignificant compared to the love he had neglected, the family he had let slip away. With uncertainty clouding every thought, Jake stood at a crossroads. Would he continue pursuing the life he had built or take the painful steps toward healing, both as a father and a man who had lost sight of what truly mattered? The questions loomed, leaving him trapped in a mindset that danced between ambition and a desperate wish for connection, waiting for an answer that seemed impossibly out of reach. Jake felt a twinge of hope as he looked down at Emma. Her innocent expression contrasted starkly with the world he had built around himself, an empire of wealth defined by chaos, disillusionment, and isolation. Each giggle she let out seemed like a reminder of everything he had sacrificed on his relentless quest for success. It was as if, in that moment, her laughter carried the potential to lift him from the weighty fog of regret. Yet as he knelt down to her level, a knot twisted within him at the realization of what he had done. "Emma," he began, his voice thick with emotion, "why are you here?" Just hearing her name filled him with a mixture of joy and sadness, and the words felt foreign on his tongue, revealing an unfamiliar vulnerability he had hardly acknowledged before. Her response was quick, unfettered by the complexities of adult decisions. "I wanted to see you, Daddy." Mom said you might need a little love today. Her small hands reached out for his, and that simple gesture revealed the chasm of disconnection he had cultivated. In that moment, Jake felt a surge of determination surge within him, a desire to dismantle the walls he had erected, even if it meant confronting the hard truths of his existence. I appreciate that, Emma. But he hesitated, weighing his options, recognizing this as a defining moment. I'm not always around like I should be, am I? The inquiry hung heavily in the air, and he braced himself for the honesty that would surely follow. Emma shrugged, her face lighting up with an innocence that brought warmth to his guilt. You're super busy, Daddy. But you can come home, right? In that truncated statement, Jake felt his heart lurch. She was not demanding his presence, but rather, suggesting it, a simplicity that sparked realization. She was right. Somewhere along the way, he had forgotten how to balance ambition with love, how to be both a parent and a businessman. His success, no matter how dazzling, seemed a hollow victory without the relationship he longed to recover. He took a deep breath, constructing a plan in that brief silence before his phone chimed again, a stark reminder of the outside world that would soon intrude. It was his potential partner, expressing irritation at the delay. At that moment, Jake faced a decision that might chart the course of his future. Would he answer the call, entrenching himself deeper into the corporate fight, or would he silence the phone and embrace the bond he desperately sought to rebuild with Emma? As admiration for her innocence battled against the demanding pressures of his business, his throat tightened. Maybe, he said slowly, in an attempt to inject sincerity into his voice, it's time I change my priorities. The words were tentative, as if they had only just been born amidst his internal turmoil. With each syllable echoed a vow to explore this newfound perspective. He stood up, pulling Emma closer. No longer a merely passive participant in his own life, he resolved to re-engage in both the heart of family and the world beyond the boardroom. But just then, the atmosphere shifted, an unsettling energy loomed as he caught sight of his business partner approaching the entrance of the restaurant. Jake felt himself compelled, the pull of his money-driven life beckoning. In this moment, the gravity of his decision intensified. Would he stand and face this latest stakeholder in his empire, or remain steadfast in his commitment to the soft, unwavering pull of familial love? The moment had arrived, the fracture within him quaking under the pressure between loyalty to business and his unyielding desire for family. Jake's heart pounded, and he made eye contact with Emma, silently asking for her guidance. Little did he know that her response would lead him down a path he never anticipated, one that would explore the true meaning of success. He could feel the consequences of his choice resonating in the pit of his stomach, layered complexities unfolding in front of him. Would the call of the world he sought to escape draw him back, or could he forge a new life built on the foundations of love and connection? In that charged moment, all he could do was wait and see, because he knew he stood at a crossroads of irreversible change. As the tension thickened around him, Jake's instinct screamed to flee toward the familiar security of his role as a businessman. The weight of expectations hovered over his shoulders like an anchor. But his gaze remained fixed on Emma, whose bright eyes reflected a kind of unwavering loyalty that rooted him where he stood. Just a sec, Emma, he muttered, fighting the impulse to pull away. The pressure of his business partner's impending arrival felt palpable, as though it was meant to draw blood from this fragile moment. But could he really justify leaving his daughter like this when she had offered him the very love he had overlooked? No. The exclamation surprised even him. It was a sudden burst of clarity. I need more time with you. The definitive nature of his words sent a jolt through his system. Was this the new man he wished to become, a man willing to climb down from the throne of his empire for the sake of connection? Emma beamed with a bright smile that flickered hope through him, radiating warmth across the chilled divide he had created. Really? We can play? She squealed, her enthusiasm infectious. Absolutely, he said, surprised at his own conviction. But first he eyed the incoming figure of his partner, sensing an ominous shift in dynamics. The image of his business achievements clashed with the innocence of Emma's expectation. A three-piece suit contrasted sharply with the simple, joyful colors of their moment. He had a choice: to embrace the world of seasoned contracts and cutthroat sales, or to step into the sunlight that Emma's laughter poured over him. Resolutely, Jake turned his back on the door his partner was approaching through, shielding Emma not just from the confrontation, but from the life he had chosen to flee. The look on Emma's face ignited something within him, a resolve born from desperation and an unrelenting wish to rebuild what he had almost lost forever. "You know, I've decided," he announced, his heart now racing with potential. "I'm going to prioritize my family. That means more time for us, more attentiveness, and fewer distractions." "You mean me and Mommy?" she asked, her eyes wide with, what seemed to him, hope and childish understanding. Jake hesitated, realizing the enormity of what that could mean. Reconciliation? Exposure of his failures? What would it take to bring the fragmented pieces of their lives back together again? Would Emma's mother even want to revisit their history, the labyrinth of their failed relationships strewn behind them like forsaken ambitions? "That would indeed be wonderful," he replied, softer, contemplating not just his responsibilities but the emotional landscape he would need to navigate. There was a world of things he could no longer ignore: the meetings he missed, the opportunities he let slip away, but above all, the love he neglected to express. Suddenly, the negative energy returning with an urgency that sent a shiver down his spine. He turned around, bracing himself for the wave of critique from his partner. Instead of the confrontation, however, he found the door stood ajar. His partner now paused at the threshold, assessing his commitment to the moment and clearly taken aback by Jake's decision to engage with his daughter instead. "Jake, we need to," the partner started, but Jake cut him off with a raised hand. "No, not now. Not like this." His voice came out firmer than he intended, almost daring his partner to step closer, to challenge him. "I can't be here for another meeting. This time, I'm staying for my daughter." He felt the shift in his own atmosphere, an immediate release of pressure, as if a weight had been lifted off his shoulders. This simple moment of standing firm felt monumental, a pivot away from relentless ambition toward a grounding relationship. "What are you doing, Jake?" his partner whispered, incredulous. "We have a company to run." The tension in the air thickened with unspoken questions, but Jake held steadfast, the internal fire now fueled by the growing realization of what he was becoming. "I'm learning what it means to be alive." "What?" "It means to love," he responded quietly, but with unyielding conviction, feeling the contours of his new path emerge even as he faced down the legacy he had built. What he didn't see was the fleeting expression of realization in his partner's eyes, the silent acknowledgement of a pivotal moment unraveling right before them, the potential demise of an empire built on sand if he followed through on this newfound commitment. The shadows of doubt and weakness still loomed within him, but they were beginning to dissolve under the light of this resolution. Emma tugged gently at his pant leg, glancing up with curiosity. There was something new glimmering in her gaze, the possibility of rekindling not just his role as a father, but as someone who could redefine his concept of success. "Thank you, Daddy," she squealed, pulling him back from his thoughts, brightening the somber room with her laughter. As Jake knelt once more to embrace her, he felt a shift in his priorities that extended further than the moment. The air buzzed with potential, mixing the tendrils of business ambition with familial love. A notion settled into his mind: the foundational synthesis of work and life wasn't merely a dream, but a commitment he was prepared to nurture. But then a troubling thought pierced through, an echo of the world he was stepping away from. Would this impact his standing in the business realm? Could he manage a foot in both worlds? The question loomed uncomfortably as he hugged Emma tight. The balance between ambition and love was precarious, yet he wondered, could he brave the challenge ahead? In the background, his partner remained, a silent player in this dynamic game of choices. While Jake felt emboldened, his heart drummed a challenging rhythm. Would the complexities of his newly chosen life yield unanticipated repercussions? As he rose, a flash of emotion coursed through him. There were lessons still to embrace, conflicts yet to face. He had just begun his quest toward real success. But as he turned his attention back towards Emma, the vision of a fuller life beckoned tantalizingly. The course ahead was unclear, but it held the potential for everything he yearned for if only he navigated the path wisely. And from the sidelines, Jake's partner, now a formidable reminder of the empire he may have to leave behind, reeled back with uncertainty. In this web of love entwined with sacrifice, one pivotal realization lingered: he couldn't confront the shadows of his past without risking everything again. The moment of truth could eclipse all he knew, or perhaps it would validate every choice he was finally brave enough to make. Jake released a slow breath, savoring the warmth of Emma's small frame against his. It felt surreal, this newfound intimacy, like emerging from a dull, colorless world into a vibrant one, bursting with stunning hues. Yet the shadows of his corporate commitments loomed just outside the door, whispering reminders of his prior life. He ruffled Emma's hair and caught himself grinning at her infectious joy. "What do you want to play first?" he asked, kneeling to her level. "Hide and seek," she exclaimed, bouncing on her toes. Rising to his full height, he nodded, his heart swelling. "All right, I'll go first. Count to 20. As he turned to face the wall, Jake's mind drifted. The moment felt electric, yet underneath his happiness lay a throbbing tension. Was this enough? Could he really redefine himself, risk everything built, and hope to reconcile with his past? He counted, not just to give Emma a chance to run, but to allow himself a moment to gather his thoughts. The numbers echoed in the hollow space around him, but each one also served as a reminder: he had chosen this moment, the laughter that enveloped him, and the love that thrived within it. When he reached 20 and spun around, a jolt of enthusiasm surged through him as he spotted her tiny figure struggling to conceal herself behind a chair, her giggles spilling out in soft bursts. The innocence and vibrancy in her attempts reminded him of the joy he had neglected. "Found you." He laughed, lifting her out from her hiding place, playfulness mixing with an undercurrent of determination. As they dove deeper into their games, Jake found himself opening up, revealing fragments of his childhood stories that had long been buried under the weight of the corporate carousel. He described playground conquests, summer adventures, and the rediscovery of purely joyful moments, an accidental lesson in balancing a serious life with lightness. But as they shifted from game to game, the nagging thoughts of his partner began creeping back. In what would he say if Jake continued to turn away from business? Would he dare pursue a philosophy of family first amidst the cutthroat demands of his career? "Daddy!" Emma interrupted his thoughts, tugging on his arm. "Can we make a fort?" "A fort?" "Absolutely." The enthusiasm in her voice jolted him once again. As they gathered blankets and cushions scattered throughout the living room, Jake felt himself sinking deeper into her world, a sanctuary born from the simplest of materials. Once inside their fort, Emma's eyes sparkled with wonder. "This is the best fort ever," she declared, as they cuddled on the floor, shadows flickering across their little hideout. The comfort of their shared space unleashed a profound realization within Jake. What if his return to work wasn't just about power dynamics or profits, but instead about building something more meaningful? Something that integrated the life he was beginning to embrace with his professional ambitions? But the flickering sensation of uncertainty lurked just beneath the surface. Could he replicate the same love he felt towards Emma in the cutthroat boardroom? Would his peers ever understand his newfound priorities? As they sat in their fort, snug and safe, the tension rose once more, a curious mix of anticipation and fear intertwined. His partner's scrutiny would only deepen with each decision he made, and navigating that toxicity would be unfathomable without a solid strategy. "Daddy?" Emma asked, her innocent curiosity breaking through. "Are we gonna see Mommy too?" Her question cut through him like a blade, exposing the complexity of their relationship that he had yet to address. The challenge loomed larger now, not only mastering his role as a father but also figuring out how to approach Emma's mother. Yes, honey. I'd like that," he responded, unwilling to crush the hope reflected in her eyes. But a pang of anxiety gripped him. How would their conversation unfold? What if everything he depicted as newfound hope crumbled back into the ruins of their past? Could he muster the courage required to bridge those gaps? As Jake stared into the fabric draped above them, a shift occurred within him, a quickening realization that he had unfinished business, both with his own heart and with the woman who, despite their separation, still held pieces of him deep within. The moment left him at a crossroads. Should he continue forging this family-oriented narrative or plunge headfirst into the wolves' den of business, terrified of what each choice could unveil? The question hung in the air as he held Emma close, each heartbeat echoing with possibility. The opportunity to grasp both love and ambition had arisen, and with it came the realization that personal growth required not just resolve, but action. And as he closed his eyes, savoring the sweetness of the moment, the floor beneath him trembled. For the first time, the stakes had sharpened around him like a fraying cord, delicately toying with the fate of everything he held dear. In the stillness of their fort, a formidable truth shimmered. He stood teetering on the edge of a defining choice. Would he choose to confront his past, risking everything he was about to become, or would he continue to retreat from the world that threatened to unravel the delicate tapestry of love he was weaving? Outside their little sanctuary lay the world of his corporate empire, a place that now felt at odds with the burgeoning realization of what true success meant. Jake would soon have to decide, could he bring together the childhood dreams he had lost with the responsibilities ahead? And as reality approached, its echoes reverberating through his mind, he braced himself for the impending storm. His moment was coming. Inside the confines of their fortress, Jake felt a swell of determination intertwining with trepidation. The fragility of the moment weighed upon him like a heavy cloak. Emma, oblivious to the tumult churning within him, nestled her head against his shoulder, causing him to consider the delicate balance he must strike. Could he cultivate this tender new world while grappling with the expectations thrust upon him in his career? "Can we make a sign for the fort?" Emma's voice startled him. Like a no boys allowed sign? He couldn't help but chuckle. "Sure. But what about no dads allowed? Since we're in here, daddies are allowed," she declared, her laughter brightening the dim space within the fort. In that instant, Jake looked beyond the childlike whimsy and embraced the deeper implication. It rolled through him like a wave. Here in this simple gesture, he saw a roadmap for his confrontation with complexity. The inkling turned into metallic certainty. If he could accept being a father while navigating the corporate world, perhaps he could also see reconciliation as a bridge. He was not destined to live in either side exclusively. Embracing both aspects, family and ambition, might be the key. With determination flickering in his chest, Jake grabbed a piece of paper and a crayon from a coffee table outside the fort. "Let us make the best sign ever," he said, returning to Emma. Together, they crafted a sign, laughter mixing with creativity. Each letter filled him with a sense of purpose as he thought about intertwining his ambitions with the love blossoming here. After sticking it firmly to the fort's entrance, a new reality unfurled before him. He realized he was not just a man caught between obligations, he was a father exploring uncharted territories, seeking deeper connections. That archetype of a protector nurturing a relationship with his daughter felt profound, grounding him. "Why do you think Mommy hasn't come yet?" Emma asked, breaking his contemplative bubble. Her trust was disarming. She expected clarity from him, yet he felt lost. "Sometimes grown-ups need time to figure things out," he answered, though doubt gnawed at him. Was that simply a rationalization? Could he really ensure Emma understood that he was striving for a balance they both desperately needed? The notion that he could model resilience and adaptability for her hinted at something bigger, a legacy rooted in genuine growth. Facing Emma's mother might become a part of this transformation, a way to illustrate that potential lay in crisis and chaos, an opportunity to repurpose misunderstandings into something more. But as the sun dipped low outside, casting long shadows into their fort, dread intertwined with hope. Would he even recognize the woman he once loved? Had time reshaped her as much as it had him? Suddenly, his phone buzzed on the table. The screen illuminated with a message from his business partner, one that sent a chill through his core. It contained a meeting request for the following day, one that would bring forth decisions about an impending merger that could make or break his standing in the company. The storm of corporate reality collided with the haven he had built with Emma. He recognized that while one decision could propel his career forward, it could also further distance him from the family he was starting to understand he needed to prioritize. Jake exhaled slowly, calming his racing thoughts. How could he communicate to his partner that the stakes were different now? "You okay, Daddy?" Emma's voice pierced the silence, her eyes searching his. "Just thinking," he said, masking the turmoil beneath a tender smile. In that little fabric enclave, he grasped the complicated emotions entwined within his heart. He had to figure out how to stand up for this new vision not just in front of Emma's mother but also in the boardroom. Each step carried weight, and the choice to explore this delicate equilibrium would require a courage he was now willing to summon. "Let us do something fun after our fort," Emma chirped, her innocent enthusiasm a beacon amid the uncertainty pressing down. "Can we get ice cream?" "I can't wait," he replied, imagining a simple outing that could symbolize more than just a treat. It could serve as a step towards bridging all that felt fractured, both in his personal life and beyond. Yet, the gnawing uncertainty remained. His past was not easily erased, and the feelings of inadequacy shadowed him. The time had come for Jake to dismantle the barriers he had built, beginning with a difficult conversation with Emma's mother and the looming corporate decisions. As they readied to emerge from their fort, Jake felt an electric urgency pulsating within him. He would have to face his truth, letting go of the expectations his partner, the merger, the uncertainty of it all. With every heartbeat, he knew that the moment had come to reveal his intentions. What would he risk, and what would he gain on this tumultuous journey ahead? As the makeshift fort began to dissolve around them, Jake felt the weight of the world pressing heavily on his chest. The whimsical innocence of Emma's laughter, ringing in the small confines, clashed violently with the looming specter of his corporate obligations. The ice cream outing promised joy, but it also whispered of the deluge of responsibility waiting just beyond their little sanctuary. He grabbed Emma's hand, feeling the warmth of her tiny fingers intertwine with his, and stepped out of the fort, grounding himself in the present moment. They walked outside, where the golden hues of the setting sun bathed everything in a honeyed glow, almost deceivingly peaceful. Would she still be angry, or had time softened her heart? The questions spiraled in his mind as they made their way to the nearby ice cream parlor. "Daddy, can I get sprinkles?" Emma's excitement was contagious, yet it placed a bittersweet tint on his thoughts. Her innocence reminded him of the stakes he was juggling. He hadn't just been handed an opportunity with the merger, he was standing at a precipice, the potential for failure looming like a thundercloud behind a bright sky. "Of course, sweetie," he managed, despite the tension twisting inside him. Inside the store, vivid flavors stared back at him, but his focus was on Emma. Every small choice she made felt like building blocks in their relationship, a foundation he had to nurture and protect. Standing in line, he felt a shiver of bravery pulse from a place deep within. He had an instinct, perhaps more of a guiding principle, that his role stretched beyond mere fatherhood. It now encompassed making choices that would shape Emma's understanding of bravery, sacrifice, and the sometimes uncomfortable dance of adult responsibilities. As they waited, Emma turned her gaze up at him, her large eyes filled with unfiltered curiosity. "Daddy, what's a merger?" He hesitated, the weight of that single word colliding with her untainted worldview. It's when two companies come together," he started carefully, gauging her reaction. "Like when we mixed our ice cream flavors today. They combine to make something even better. But why do they need to mix? Can't they just be friends?" The innocent questioning hit harder than Jake anticipated. The reminder of how simple relationships could be stung here. He was adding complexity to everything in his life while Emma sought clarity. "Sometimes people think they need to merge because it's better for everyone involved," he replied, sensing the truth of what he was saying. "But sometimes, it can get messy." Their ice cream orders arrived, and he watched Emma's face light up as she received her cone, bright sprinkles cascading down like multicolored confetti. Her laughter was genuine, a melody of distraction from the storm brewing just a few steps away in his professional life. But somewhere beneath the joy, Jake's resolve began to crystallize. He would not only navigate the inevitable conflict ahead with Emma's mother, he would confront his partner about the merger, asserting the newfound perspective that had shifted him so far from his passive acceptance of life's unfolding. "Can we sit outside?" Emma's request broke his trance. "I want to see the sunset." "Great idea." Jake found himself smiling, a little surprised at the ease of it. They settled onto a bench, the sun dipping below the horizon as colors splashed across the sky. In these fleeting moments, he felt a sense of clarity. He would not allow fear to dictate his actions any longer, whether in navigating relationships or boardrooms. This revelation began to create a fire within him, overshadowing the doubt that had become all too familiar. He would embrace the challenge of balancing career and fatherhood, arming himself with the strength that came from love, rather than fear. But as the sky darkened, the bittersweet edge of all his uncertainties crept back in. The upcoming meeting loomed larger than life, a mountain he needed to scale with neither safety gear nor a promise of victory. How could he approach it with the same unwavering resolve he felt now? With Emma beside him, glowing in the aftermath of their shared experience, he knew tomorrow he would have to summon not just courage, but also the fiercest authenticity of his life. The conversation he had put off for so long was creeping closer, and the question now remained: would he emerge from the meeting unscathed, or would the stakes of his personal transformation cost him dearly? The morning arrived with a sense of urgency that gnawed at Jake's insides. He felt a strange combination of anticipation and dread as he sipped his coffee, the strong brew unable to mask the unease that clung to him like a shadow. The sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the clumsily stacked dishes, remnants of late-night snacks that had turned into a haphazard mountain of guilt. As he worked through the last vestiges of sleep, the thought of his meeting crept back into focus. Emma flitted around the house, her laughter ringing out, punctuating Jake's anxious thoughts. Watching her play reminded him of the significance of the day ahead, and he couldn't help but reflect on what he was about to face. The merger loomed, the responsibilities of adulthood beckoning him with an insistent whisper. As he watched her, an odd comfort washed over him. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for the happiness they shared, for the kind of future he could sculpt where Emma understood the intricate balance of ambition and love. The time for the meeting approached with a relentless tick-tock, a reminder that he could no longer delay the confrontation. He would address the merger with clarity, armed with the perspective he had gained, not only from his time with Emma but from dealing with the complexities of his feelings regarding her mother. This wasn't just about business, it was about asserting his role in every part of his life, his career, his family, his identity. As he pulled into the office parking lot, the familiar skyline loomed ahead, stark and imposing. He parked the car and took a deep breath, attempting to ground himself before stepping through barriers of glass and steel. He envisioned the boardroom, the faces of his colleagues and partner reflecting expectations and pressures, each glance a reminder of the stakes. Today, he would not shy away from the conversation he had been avoiding. The moment he stepped inside the building, Jake felt a shift within himself. The uncertainty that had plagued him was gradually transforming into a laser-focused determination. He was more than just an employee, he was a father committed to shaping a life of purpose for his daughter. Walking down the corridor, the chatter of colleagues blended into the background of his thoughts. He recalled Emma's question the previous day, how friendships could sometimes be simpler than business decisions. There was truth in her words, a reminder that relationships, both personal and professional, should carry seeds of authenticity. Before entering the meeting room, Jake paused, allowing himself a moment to center his thoughts. He wasn't stepping into this space to compromise. He was entering to express his vision, to harmonize his personal values with the realities of the corporate world. Finding the balance between ambition and integrity had become his new objective. Once inside, Jake laid out his thoughts with precision, challenging the proposed merger by articulating its potential pitfalls while also suggesting an alternative approach. He felt energized, ignited by the fire that had been fueled by his relationship with Emma. Each word solidified the notion that success shouldn't come at the cost of honesty, and to succeed, one must navigate the murky waters with transparency. As the conversation unfolded, he could feel the momentum building, or was it resistance? Faces turned towards him, skepticism brewing in their expressions. He needed this moment to resonate, to convey that personal transformation could also ignite professional innovation. The stakes climbed, but so did his resolve. Then, just as Jake began to feel that he had a grip on the dialogue, a voice interrupted the carefully cultivated tension. It was a colleague challenging his perspective, questioning whether his emotions were clouding his judgment. With the eyes of the room on him, Jake took a deep breath, ready to respond. Would he drown in fear, or would he rise, finding a way to weave his personal journey into a powerful narrative that could impact the decisions made in that very room? The moment evoked a choice within him, one that could lead to understanding and possibly reconciliation, or risk angering the powers at play. As emotions pulsed through him, the thought crystallized: this was not just a fight for the merger, but for his place and voice within the structure itself. Would he be heard, or would he fade back into the shadows where he had so often felt confined? Jake felt the weight of every gaze in the boardroom, pinning him against the wall of scrutiny. The challenge posed by his colleague dangled like a noose, each letter of the man's words echoing in Jake's mind. Are your emotions clouding your judgment? His instinct was to defend himself, to articulate that this wasn't merely about feelings but a profound realization about what success meant to him. Yet, something else stirred within him, a fire ignited by his daughter's laughter, reminding him that he didn't need to shrink into the shadows of expectations or stereotypes. He was not just an employee, he was a father, a man who aspired to anchor his professional ethos to the principles that he was instilling in Emma. Actually, Jake started, his voice steady. It's not my emotions that cloud my judgment, it's the fear of complacency that influences the decisions that could affect all of us in this room. A merger may promise short-term gains, but how does it contribute to a sustainable future for us as a company? Surprised murmurs rippled through his colleagues. He could sense a subtle shift as their skepticism faltered, some nodding slightly, others leaning in closer. Perhaps there was a way to ground this conversation in reality without compromising on authenticity. He continued, weaving in examples of past mergers that had faltered, not because of financial inadequacies but because they ignored the values and cultures at play. His words picked up urgency as he detailed how a vision could unify rather than fracture company morale. The more he spoke, the more he felt a connection forming with his audience, as if they were no longer adversaries but partners engaged in a collective exploration of possibilities. Instinctively, he glanced down at his watch, his reminder of the limited time. The minutes ticked away. Jake realized that confronting the merger was only a part of the larger narrative. He was also reshaping how he viewed his role in this company. His voice wasn't just a tool for negotiation, it was part of his identity, a powerful declaration that he had something worthy of contribution. I propose, Jake stated, searching the room for familiar faces, that we create a framework blending our resources with innovative collaboration while respecting our individual strengths. A company rooted in its identity and values will stand strong against the turbulence of market demands. The other board members exchanged glances. The initial tension began to dissolve, replaced by a careful consideration. Discussions flourished around him as he established a clearer vision of success, a definition that encompassed personal integrity and the welfare of his daughter's future. Despite the positive undercurrents, doubt still lurked beneath the surface. Could he maintain this momentum? Was he really shifting perceptions, or merely enjoying a fleeting moment of clarity? As each voice in the room contributed thoughts and ideas, a part of Jake remained vigilant against the potential backlash. Yet with each acknowledgement of his suggestions, the energy within him surged. He felt almost buoyant, the harmony of his professional aspirations and personal commitments finally intersecting. Out of the corner of his eye, he spotted the clock. The time was creeping toward a decisive moment, one that could either solidify his newfound voice or leave him trapped in overruled decisions. The meeting began to draw to a close, but Jake knew he had one final opportunity. He stood, gathering the room's attention like a conductor preparing for the symphony's crescendo. "I want to be a part of building something that thrives on both success and substance, something Emma can look up to, something we can all be proud of." As he spoke those words, conviction tightening around him like a second skin, he felt the true power of his journey crystallizing. The moment stood pregnant with possibility, the air thick with unspoken words and countless decisions waiting to be made. The board was more engaged than ever, but there was still one major hurdle looming: the final vote on the merger. As the proposal took shape, Jake anticipated the reactions, the divisions that might still arise. A colleague rose to provide a counterargument, but before he could finish, Jake sensed the tension transform into a fragile but resolute hope. As uncertainty flickered in the room, Jake prepared to respond. He realized then that regardless of the outcome, he could never return to silence. He could not let fear unravel the thread he had begun to weave between his professional and personal life. The stakes were set, and with the weight of the moment pressing against him, Jake knew this was his time to truly confront not only the corporate landscape but also his identity within it. Would his newfound voice resonate beyond these walls, or would he retreat, uncertain, waiting for the next opportunity to emerge? The room fell into an uneasy stillness as the board member who had begun the counterargument paused, clearly reconsidering his words. Jake took a breath, determined to guide the conversation back into the constructive territory they had recently discovered. "Let us discuss the potential impact of moving forward with this merger," he suggested, trying to recalibrate the atmosphere. "Rather than focusing solely on immediate profits, what if we assessed how this decision aligns with our core mission and values?" The tension in the air began to lighten, allowing a more collegial atmosphere to breach the surface. Some of his colleagues shifted in their seats, intrigued by the shift in dialogue. Jake's heart raced. This was not merely about the merger, it was a test of his ability to influence the culture he wanted to foster. As the discussion unfolded, Jake felt a growing sense of empowerment. He was negotiating not just on behalf of the company but for his very self. Each word he chose seemed imbued with a purpose, fueled by the certainty that he was not just an employee but an integral creator of his reality. The board members began to warm to his ideas, voicing their own concerns about the merger's potential pitfalls, doubts that mirrored his own. They were revisiting their shared mission, the very principles that had originally brought them together in the first place. It was a watershed moment for Jake, realizing that he could facilitate discourse that respected varied perspectives while standing firm in his convictions. Yet doubt still flickered at the edges of his mind. The fear of overstepping, of not being taken seriously, crept back in. What if this momentum was fleeting? What if he hadn't truly shifted anyone's perception? In that moment, he caught himself spiraling into uncertainty once again. He recalled Emma's laughter, the stark contrast between the joy in her eyes and the gravity of his surroundings. Suddenly, he saw himself in a different light: a father leading a charge for foundational values, both personally and professionally. "I understand the concern some of you have aboard," Jake articulated slowly, tuning into the room's energy. "But isn't part of our responsibility to ensure this company not only survives but thrives in a way that future generations, like my daughter, can respect and appreciate? Success is more than just the bottom line, it's about leaving a legacy." He saw heads nodding across the table. Was he truly being heard? The feeling was intoxicating, filling him with a sense of resolve. They were grappling not just with numbers but with lives, aspirations, dreams. As the board deliberated more openly now, Jake felt the atmosphere transform. He caught snippets of commitment, discussions on ethics, and the company's vision. They were forging a path forward not just for the present, but for a future that they, together, would craft. And still, the question lingered: could he trust this change? Would it translate into a concrete shift within the company's culture, or was he merely experiencing the highs of an isolated moment? The shadows of his doubt remained, a reminder that the assertion of principles could easily dissolve under the weight of reality. As the meeting drew to its climax, someone called for a vote, breaking the suspense and sending Jake's heartbeat echoing in his ears. This was at the moment where his articulation and fight met the reality of corporate governance. "Keep in mind the vision we've discussed," Jake offered, the stakes tantalizingly high. "Let us not vote for a merger alone but for the foundation we want to build." The board members glanced at each other, the palpable weight of their decision settling heavily. Would they stand by the ideals they had explored together, or would the fear of change win out over belief? He couldn't help but wrestle with the anxiety gnawing in his stomach. The outcome of the vote was looming, but so too was the realization that his journey toward self-advocacy and the integration of his value system into professional life had only just begun. The moment felt electric, buoyed by a collective breath. He sensed the change was not solely in the room but within him, a manifestation of deep fortitude waiting to emerge. As they prepared to cast their votes, Jake leaned forward, ready to embrace whatever outcome awaited him. "Let us shape our company's legacy," he implored, words hanging in the air as they prepared to decide. Would his fervor resonate, or would the established norms snuff it out? The room waited, each gaze a mirror reflecting Jake's own anticipation. The moment was at hand, and with it came the possibility of transformation even beyond the boardroom walls, where a father's promises awaited. The vote rattled through the boardroom like a charged wind. Each member held a slip of paper, their choices poised to reveal allegiances, fears, and aspirations. Jake felt the weight of every pair of eyes on him, their scrutiny driving him deeper into the core of his conviction. The instant held promise and threat in equal measure, a clear delineation of his newfound commitment to weave ambition and family into a single narrative. The murmurs halted, replaced by a collective stillness. He could almost hear his heart thrumming against the silence as the board secretary began collecting the votes. With each slip that slid into the urn, Jake felt time warp around him, stretching the second into eternity. Would they take the leap with him, or retreat into the familiar? And then the results emerged, the room holding its breath. "The motion carries," the secretary announced, lifting his gaze from the box and acknowledging the mix of smiles and furrowed brows around the table. A wave of relief washed over Jake. It wasn't just a win for his proposal but a validation of his journey, proof that he could engage authentically with the complexities of his life and still emerge victorious. But the victory resonated deeper than the boardroom acknowledgement. It echoed the transformation he had nurtured inside one, birthed through the stark glimpse of his daughter's joyful spirit, the realization that success was intricately bound to love and integrity. He deconquered a paradox that had for long felt insurmountable, elevating his role as both father and businessman. "Congratulations," his colleague said, stepping forward to offer a handshake. Each clasp felt reassuring warmth against the chill of competition that had defined their previous dynamics. Words of encouragement permeated the room, voices acknowledging his leadership and direction. The validation was tangible, like a bridge built over the uncertainty that had long paralyzed him. Jake's smile widened, basking in the moment of triumph. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of belonging in this space, one not defined solely by profit but by purpose. He had paved a path where ambition could coexist with emotional honesty, demonstrating to the board that life was not segmented into compartments but intertwined by the threads of experience and relationships. Yet, beneath the exhilaration, a persistent thought flickered like a flame: he must keep this momentum alive. The meeting concluded with applause, a chorus of appreciation for the collective vision that would guide their next steps. As he stepped out of the boardroom, Jake felt renewed. He glanced at his watch. It was now time for him to embrace the most significant aspect of his transformation: his daughter. Driving home, a sense of resolve swelled within him. The stakes were high, yet he was ready to reclaim lost moments. He had decided not just to merge his professional ambitions with personal fulfillment, but to reshape how he approached every aspect of his life. He was no longer just Jake the businessman, he was Jake the father, the man willing to embrace vulnerability, the partner striving for genuine connection. As he entered his home, the laughter bounced off the walls, and he found Emma sprawled on the floor with scattered toys around her, a picture of joy entangled in imaginative play. His heart filled with warmth. Every ounce of sacrifice had led him here, not to a world marred by ambition but to a space embraced by love. "Daddy's home," he called, sweeping her up in his arms, her giggles filling the air like music. In that intimate moment, he vowed to prioritize their relationship, striving for balance in his ambitions while nourishing the bond they shared. He understood now that the key to success extended beyond traditional metrics. It echoed louder in the laughter and connection that enveloped them both. "Did you have fun today?" Emma asked, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "More than you can imagine," he replied, holding her tighter. "And we've got a whole lot more adventures coming our way." As they settled on the living room floor, Jake devised plans not just for the impending ice cream outings and simple fort-building moments but also for how to approach Emma's mother. He wanted her to see the man he had become, the man who now understood the depth of integrity and love he needed to demonstrate. Through building this foundation, he would evolve, just as he had within the walls of the boardroom. Each interaction beyond that moment was a step towards a more fulfilling life, a cycle of growth that would ripple through every relationship he held dear. Deep satisfaction kindled within him, intertwined with a newfound confidence. Jake had not just achieved a business victory, he had accomplished a personal renaissance, a commitment towards a future that promised harmonized values and revived connections. In the days that followed, as he navigated his responsibilities, both personal and professional, Jake did so with a deep sense of purpose, a renewed faith that each step he took was grounded in love rather than fear. He knew the importance of facing his past and shaping his legacy, understanding now that true success came from embracing the holistic nature of life. And every so often, when the shadows of doubt nudged him, he would picture Emma's vibrant smile, that innocent laughter igniting a warmth that washed away the remnants of his isolation. He had conquered his internal conflict, proven to himself that fulfillment was not a distant mirage but a tangible reality all within reach. As he turned off the lights that night, Jake felt an undeniable peace settle around him. With each choice, he was shaping not only his destiny but also that of his daughter, a testament to love and success intertwined, a legacy he could proudly pass on to the next generation. Jake Reynolds had truly transformed, and with that transformation came the most substantial achievement of all, an unwavering commitment to balance ambition with an open heart. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support is vital. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share.